Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ukulele in Word and Song. What follows is an elaboration of a presentation that Karen and I gave at the Institute for Mature Learners at Drury University here in Springfield, Missouri. They noticed that the ukulele had become quite popular and wanted to know why such a little thing could be such a big deal. Maybe you're thinking the same thing. The Ozarks is known for our guitars and our banjos. Why do we need ukuleles too? Well, Karen and I think about this a lot. In fact, we formed a ukulele band. And since we live in Springfield, Missouri, the birthplace of Route 66, we call it Uke 66. We play around town in the Midwest, California, Hawaii, Mexico, and Japan. And we've won some international awards. We also lead camps and clubs, performance groups, and teach lessons. You see, we believe that there are two kinds of people in this world. Those who play the ukulele and those who don't play the ukulele yet. I'm Rick Maxson.
And I'm Karen Maxson.
We have songs to sing and stories to tell. This is the ukulele in word and song.
2, 3, 4. Hands on your hips, do your hula dips. Sophisticated hula is the talk of the town. Sophisticated hula, it's the talk of the town.
Well, did you know the ukulele isn't native to Hawaii? It's originally from Portugal. It made an ocean voyage in the late 1800s from Portugal to Hawaii. And then, in 1915, it crossed the Pacific from Hawaii to San Francisco, where it made its debut at the Pan-Pacific Exposition. And from there, it went worldwide in what they call the three waves of popularity. The early 1900s, the 1950s, and then again in the 1990s. Because the ukulele is affordable and relatively easy to learn, the third wave has resulted in ukulele clubs worldwide, including here in Springfield. We'll tell you more about that later, along with the story of how a Missouri native and a ukulele pro became the voice of a beloved Disney character.
So how in the world did the ukulele get from Portugal to Hawaii? Well, in the late 1800s, the Sandwich Islands, as the Hawaiian Islands were known back then, had a declining native population because of European colonization and disease. This was affecting the production of sugarcane, so planters sent word out to the world that they needed workers for plantations and factories. Meanwhile, in Madeira, an island of Portugal where they make Madeira wine, production of the wine was in decline because of a small series of natural disasters like drought. Folks there heard about the search for workers in Hawaii, and they had no problem filling a ship to make the 4-month, 12,000-mile trip to Hawaii. The SS Ravenscrag arrived in the port of Honolulu on Saturday, August 23, 1879, with 135 men, 115 women, and 178 children. The story goes that when the ship arrived, one passenger, João Fernandes, was so grateful for the safe arrival that he jumped off the ship onto the wharf with a small stringed instrument in hand and sang Portuguese songs of thanksgiving. He was playing a small Portuguese guitar called a braguinha, or machete, and his fingers were flying so quickly over the frets and the strings that the Hawaiians named the instrument ukulele, which means jumping fleas.
Jumping fleas. Hawaii's reigning monarch at the time was King David Kalakaua.
Very good.
Thank you, David Kalakaua. He was known as the Merry Monarch. He was an accomplished guitarist and musician in his own right, so he was intrigued by the ukulele. He learned how to play it and became its champion. When King David died in 1891, his sister Liliuokalani became queen.
Good job.
Thank you.
Well, as the story goes, she was riding horses with friends from a ranch on the windward side of Oahu back to Honolulu. At one point, she witnessed an embrace between Colonel James Boyd, who would be leaving the island soon, and a young woman. The tender farewell inspired Queen Liliuokalani to compose Aloha Oi, or Farewell to Thee.
The song is one of Hawaii's most famous and is identified closely with Hawaiian culture. Even though the Queen published the song in 1878, the song came to be associated with the Queen's imprisonment in 1895 during an effort by American businessmen to annex Hawaii to the United States. So, for non-Hawaiians, Aloha Oi is a romantic farewell song. For Hawaiians, it took on meanings having to do with the loss of their country and the Queen's sorrow.
Proudly swept the rain cloud by the clear, as on it glided through the tree, still following with grief the lead. Oh, the of the veil. Aloha, aloha, eke ona ona noho I kalipo, a fond embrace, ahoy, until we meet again.
So, how did the ukulele get to the U.S.? Well, in 1915, San Francisco hosted the Pan-Pacific International Exposition to celebrate the completion of the Panama Canal and, on the side, to show that San Francisco had recovered from the widespread devastation of the 1906 earthquake. The expo stretched for 2 miles along the city's waterfront and was open for 10 months. The territorial legislature of Hawaii pledged to give $100,000 to build a Hawaiian pavilion that would showcase the islands, including island performers playing ukulele. It worked. Even though Hawaiian ukulele players had already performed in the U.S. before the exposition, those small performances didn't have the draw of the 18 million visitors who were enchanted by the Hawaiian exhibition.
Well, here's a Missouri connection to that. Laura Ingalls Wilder attended the exposition several times while visiting her daughter, Rose, in San Francisco. Little House on the Islands, anyone?
Well, the first wave of the ukulele's popularity was launched. And though we were in the midst of World War I, everyone wanted a ukulele. Hugely popular guitar maker C.F. Martin began making ukuleles in 1916 that looked a lot like this. In fact, look at pictures from that period. You will see people loved Martin's version of the ukulele. Well, many other manufacturers followed who produced economical instruments that still evoked images of Hawaii.
Side note, those cheap ukuleles were undercutting the nicer instruments made in Hawaii. So in a preemptive move in 1917, the Honolulu Ad Club patented the ukulele.
It's patented. At about the same time, it's likely that a certain young man named Cliff Edwards discovered the ukulele. Maybe like the one I showed you.
That's right. So Cliff Edwards was born in Hannibal, Missouri on June 14th, 1895. His dad worked with the Missouri Pacific Railroad, and when Cliff was about 14 years old, his dad became ill. So Cliff went to work at a local shoe factory, but eventually he traveled downriver to St. Louis, where he performed illustrated songs for silent movies. That is, he sang, played drums, and made sound effects. At some point, around 1916 or 17, Cliff discovered the ukulele, and he became an accomplished player.
It was also around this time that he took on a stage name, Ukulele Ike.
Right. Well, he was working at the Arsonia Cafe in Chicago, where the piano player, Bob Carlton, wrote a song that would become Cliff's very first hit.
Jada,
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 jada, jada, jada, jing, jing, jing.
jada,
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 jada, jada, jing, jing, jing. That's a funny little bit of melody. It's so soothing and appealing to me. Jada,
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 jada, jada, jing, jing, jing. It goes jada,
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 jada, jada, jing, jing, jing. Jada,
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 jada, jada, jing, jing, jing. Jada,
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 jada, jada, jing, jing, jing. That's a funny little bit of melody. It's so soothing and appealing to me. Jada,
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 jada, jada, jing, jing, jing. It goes jada,
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 jada, jada, jing, jing, jing.
Ukulele Ike went on to have an impressive career. He was in Broadway shows, movies, and he had hit recordings like Button Up Your Overcoat, California, Here I Come, It Had to Be You, and his top hits...
I can't give you anything but love, baby.
Well, from about 1895 to 1915, Hawaiian music dance bands were in high demand. The music was influenced by the popular music of the time, and the lyrics were a combination of Hawaiian and English. This new genre was called hapa haole. In Hawaiian, hapa means half, and haole means white or Caucasian. So literally, hapa haole was half-white music. After 1915, the genre included songs such as My Little Grass Shack, Blue Hawaii, and
Come a swimming in me, oh, we're going to a hukilau. A hooky, 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 a hooky, 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 a hooky, 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 hukilau. And if you have ever sung Melikilikimaka at Christmas time, you've sung a hapa haole song written by the godfather of the genre, R. Alexander Anderson. Anderson published more than 200 songs, and though he was neither a native Hawaiian nor a professional musician, he is beloved by mainlanders and islanders alike for expressing sentimental devotion to the beauty of the islands and its culture. Anderson was born on Oahu in 1845 to parents of Scottish descent. He grew up in Honolulu and developed a deep love for the island, its people, and its culture. Even in college at Cornell, where he studied electrical engineering, and later during World War I, where he served as a pilot, Alex was never far from his ukulele and was often composing a song about Hawaii. No doubt that when he was shot down behind enemy lines and taken prisoner, those songs comforted him even as they inspired his daring escape. Later, back home in Hawaii, Anderson was largely responsible for bringing refrigeration and air conditioning to the islands. Thank you, Alex. And became an active business professional and civic leader, while at the same time composing hundreds of songs for friends, family, and celebrities like Bing Crosby and Andy Williams, among others.
Anderson's biography, Joyful Heart, gets its title from the lyrics of his favorite song, Haole Hula. I love to dance and sing of the charms of Hawaii, and from a joyful heart, sing aloha to you.
dance and sing of the charms of Hawaii.
And from a
Joyful heart, sing aloha to you.
in every note I'll
Tell of the spell of my island,
for then I know that
you'll be in love with them too.
for then I know that
You'll be in love with them too.
Nice.
So the first wave of the ukulele's popularity began to wane in about 1920 or so.
Yeah.
The second wave came during the Depression. Skyrocketing prices for instruments such as a piano opened the door for affordable instruments more like the ukulele. And side industries were developed for sheet music and instructional booklets. In 1950, popular television host Arthur Godfrey taught millions of viewers how to play ukulele right in their living room, sort of like the first YouTube video tutorials. A new line of plastic ukuleles called TV Pals started, and some 1.7 million new uke players were born. Arthur Godfrey said, "If a kid has a uke in his hand, he's not going to get into much trouble." Well, that might have been an unintended forewarning.
Because what happened next? The 60s.
Yeah, and with the birth of rock and roll, interest in the ukulele died. Everyone wanted to learn how to play the electric guitar. It was pretty much a uke-apocalypse. And the capper?
Huh.
Tiny Tim.
Oh. Tiny Tim was born Herbert Buckingham Cowrie in New York, New York. As a kid, he developed a love for American music and songs, mostly from the late 1800s and early 1900s. He dropped out of high school and learned how to play the guitar and the ukulele. Ultimately, he made his way to the TV show Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In, where he performed Tiptoe Through the Tulips. He married his first wife, Miss Vicky, on the Johnny Carson show. He had a shtick going, but the guy was a musicologist.
He also sort of killed the second wave of ukulele popularity.
Yeah, I know. Well, fast forward to the third wave, which began in the 1990s when pop and rock musicians began using the ukulele in some of their songs. Eddie Vedder, Train, Meghan Trainor, Pete Townsend, Steve Tyler, Taylor Swift. From Hawaii, a ukulele virtuoso named Jake Shimabukuro stunned the world with his interpretation of While My Guitar Gently Weeps, a song by George Harrison, who also loved the ukulele, by the way.
Yeah.
Jake inspired people to take the ukulele to another level. This YouTube video has had 17 million views and was one of the first viral videos on the YouTube site.
That was amazing.
It really was.
Every ukulele player wants to play like Jake.
Yeah.
But we also began hearing the distinctive sound of the ukulele in commercials. The eToys commercial of 1999 introduced us to the dulcet tenor tones of a Hawaiian musician.
In 1988, that musician was inspired by a song idea in the wee hours of the morning. So he called a Honolulu recording studio at 3 a.m. to ask if he could come over and record it. Well, the recording engineer happened to be there, but he gave the guy 15 minutes to get there, and boy did he. Well, they set up the microphones for him, and he recorded the song in one take. The singer, Israel Kamakawiwa Ole, the song, Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
Sing it with me. Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly, and the dreams that you dare to, oh why can't So where are we now? Solidly in a wave of ukulele love that doesn't seem to have an end. There are hundreds of video tutorials on YouTube, ukulele clubs in communities and schools around the globe, ukulele festivals, workshops, and even virtual gatherings on Zoom. The ukulele is the gateway instrument to making music and making friends. Many people who have never played an instrument have found that they can make music. They can be musicians.
Right. Locally here in Springfield, Rick founded and advised the Drury University Ukulele Club for 7 years before his retirement. Congratulations. We have the Queen City Ukulele Club that meets, when we can meet, at Springfield Music Company, where we strum and sing, we play in parades, we have fun as a social club. There are ukulele clubs like this all over the U.S.
So, in this third wave, the ukulele is more than the little guitar that could, more than a novelty, more than a Shetland guitar.
Right.
It's a relatively easy, affordable entry into making music. There's a feeling that this might be the final wave for various reasons. An article from the Christian Science Monitor says that this wave is different than the others because it doesn't rely on ethnic cliches, and novelty plays less of a role in the instrument's presentation.
And we agree. Oh, yeah. The connection between a Missouri ukulele player and the voice of a beloved Disney character, it's Cliff Edwards, Ukulele Ike. He was friends with Walt Disney, and one day Walt called Cliff and said, "I'm making a movie, and there's a part that I think is perfect for you, because when I hear you sing, I hear a smile." And that's how the kid from Hannibal, Missouri, became the voice of Jiminy Cricket.
Straight and narrow path, and if you start to slide, give a little whistle, give a little whistle, and always let your conscience be your guide.
Walt said to Cliff, "When I hear you sing, I hear a smile." We say, when we hear a ukulele, we hear a smile. We'd like to leave you with this Jiminy Cricket song, and we hope we see you someday playing a ukulele.
When you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are. Anything your heart desires will come to you. If your heart is in your dream, no request is too extreme. When you wish upon a star, as dreamers do, fate is kind. She brings to those who love the sweet fulfillment of their secret longing. Like a bolt out of the blue, fate steps in and sees you through. When you wish upon a star, your dreams come true. You play with me?
Yes.
Like a bolt out of the blue, fate steps in and sees you through. When you wish upon a star, your dreams come true. Night night, Pinocchio.